Afternoon, all. Welcome to the Player Rating Show. Just myself and Nick today to further discuss that debacle that happened last night over at London Stadium. I was unfortunate enough to be there. And Nick, watching back, you had a 2-hour show by yourself last night with a load of quite good callers, actually.
Yeah, they were. It was very good. I mean, like I said in the show yesterday, I watched it back. I was incredibly sweary, but I was angry. But yeah, I think I leveled out as the show went on.
It always happens. How are you feeling today? You feeling you still feeling angry, or has apathy set in a little bit?
I think apathy's been there for a while. I mean, yesterday after the during that game when we saw the lineup, you saw he was going for it. The criticisms of Moyes were still there, but I was hopeful. I thought, no, this looks promising. We could and should get something from this. You said that. You said player for player. Looking at that, there's no way that Brentford beat us. That's kind of what I thought. I'm just disappointed. I'm really, and I'm fed up. And seeing some of the stories that have come out today, and I'm not going to sort of tell everyone they're wrong because they know about as much as us. I think I just think some people are using their logic. I personally still I have to believe that he's going to go because it doesn't make any logical sense that he's going to stay.
Well, I think if you go on what is normal for the club, they speak to certain people. Jacob Steinberg definitely usually has the inside track of what's going on at West Ham, and a quote from him today was David Moyes still has the support of the board. Last night's defeat to Brentford leaves West Ham firmly in a relegation battle, but there are no plans to make a managerial change at the moment, which to me is just outstanding in its arrogance and its how can I say, contempt, right? Contempt for the fans, pure unbridled contempt. They think we're not seeing what we're actually seeing before our eyes.
It's incompetence as well. I mean, on their part, it's incredibly incompetent.
Yeah, but that incompetence will hit them in the pocket, right? It's just what really bothers me is the denial that we're seeing what we're seeing, right? The gaslighting, the David Moyes coming out after the game and saying, "Oh, what a fabulous game the boys had." I tell you, all the heads were not down after half time. Heads were up. Everything was looking good. It's like, well. Really, were they? Were you really all upbeat and optimistic at half time, being 2-0 down at home to Brentford? Were you? Because we weren't in the stands.
I heard the words. I heard the words that he came out with, and they were every bit like you just said. It was all gaslighting. But if you looked at his physical demeanour, it was a very different David Moyes. So if you looked at the the spiky character that we saw in the pre-match press conference, the one who was he reacted when somebody asked him if he's on the ropes. He said what he said. And then you looked at him afterwards, he was very it was different. It was different. Even Declan Rice as well. I'm not saying they're taking a different tact. They look defeated. And this is the issue now. And this is why he has to go, because now he's gone past being deluded. Now they look beat. They look well and truly beat, including David Moyes now. It's gone from we will get out of this to we'll do our best if we can. That's not good enough.
And one of your callers last night had a really good point. I think it was Scott, and he was comparing, I think, the Declan Rice captaincy with the Joey Cole captaincy under Glenn Roeder, right? And basically saying it was it was too early because he was too young. And I think we've all kind of come to that conclusion after a while. And I think you're seeing parallels as well in the language from Declan Rice, coming out today, and you expect him to support the manager, but basically saying, look, it's all on the players, it's nothing to do with the manager. Well, it is something to do with the manager, Deck. It really is. He's the one that's setting you up, giving you your roles, and we're just losing game after game, and we're getting to the point where, I mean, it was yesterday we got to the point where we were not even competing, right? I mean, absolutely no idea going forward. I mean, what happened was, it was I don't know. Again, seeing it live and seeing it on telly are two entirely different things. As me and you exchanged WhatsApps before the game, I was quite optimistic given the formation. Thank God he'd changed it around. Right? When the game kicked off, I think Paqueta had more touches in the first 5 minutes than he's had all season playing for us. So I thought, hello, this looks all right. We're pushing high up the pitch. Probably Brentford are inviting us on to push high up the pitch, but nonetheless, Declan went on and hit the post. Dawson had a chance just by the post, and you start to think, well, is it going to be one of those days where we go close and don't score? And then out of the blue, just a sloppy, cheap goal we've conceded, and followed by another.
It's common though, isn't it, Gary? It's not a one-off. This is happening a lot.
It is, and what happens is, as soon as that first goal gets in, you can see visibly the heads drop, and then when the second goal goes in, they completely lose all confidence in even passing to each other, right? So before the first goal went in, Ben Rama, for instance, was right at it, and everybody was pushing forward. There was there seemed to be a fair amount of creativity, moving the ball quickly and everything else. 2-0 down, they're second guessing everything they're doing, right? So they're getting forward. They don't want to make another mistake, so they're double checking. They end up playing the ball sideways. So they're playing the ball left, they're playing the ball right. Declan Rice makes a surging run forward, stops, plays it out to the to the overlapping fullback, who checks back and then just passes it back again. And then I think they were basically looking. The wide players were looking for an opportunity to put in a meaningless cross because neither of them could cross.
The game plan was, Gary, was just get the ball wide, get it in, get the ball wide, get it in, and it was. The delivery, the issue was a quality of delivery, and it wasn't being rectified. I mean, to have Soufal, who I said I went in on him yesterday on the show quite heavily, but I sort of stand by it. Perhaps not as aggressive as I did go in on him, but he can't deliver a ball. He can't. He's got a terrible delivery on him. Yeah. He does try. He puts his all in, but that ain't enough in this situation. It's not enough. That was a key role. It was a key role for our tactic to win that game was to get deliveries in the box to score that way. So therefore, if you can't get the right delivery in, it's all going to fall down at that point, regardless how much possession you've got. And I know we did create some chances, like you said. We hit the bar. We had plenty of shots on goal. Ben Rama had one. Emerson had one. But no, it was for me. It was shit. Looking back at it,
for me, when we went 2-0 down, that was it. It was game over. From that point, we had no real threat. Up until that point, we had some threat, and there was some comedy stuff at the end, and you just had to feel for the likes of Antonio, who went on that run, and ended up just nudging the ball away with his standing foot. So as he, created a nice air shot for himself.
It was pathetic, wasn't it? I feel sorry for Antonio because he tries, but that was comical. You couldn't not laugh at that.
No, you couldn't. And you're absolutely right. The quality of crossing. If that is your only game plan, I mean, we were basically, we were moving the ball quite quick up until the 18-yard box. Then we were stopping. And we seem to be letting Brentford get back and get into shape while we just knock the ball around it amongst ourselves. And then, as soon as an opportunity opened up for a cross, whoever could get the cross in would get the cross in, good or bad, right? But by that time, Brentford were back and organised, and they were happy. They were happy to defend a cross. Right?
But they're happy out of possession anyway. Did you see this? John's just made a note of it yesterday. For about 10 minutes, I had such a brain fart yesterday at the start of that show. I kept on saying Burnley. It was in my head. I kept on saying Burnley. Ross texted me. There was people in the chat saying, and I kind of I had a complete mental block. And apparently Nicky from West Ham Fan TV made the same mistake.
He did. I saw it today. He said exactly the same thing. He said exactly. I
don't know what that's all about.
I think you were just as angry as each other, maybe.
I know.
But I'll tell you what, right, inside the ground, before the game we were saying, if we go 1-0 down against Brentford, it's going to turn toxic. Well, I've got to say, it didn't turn toxic. There was a sense of apathy inside the ground, right?
It's worse, I think.
There was no real anger when they went 1-0 up. There was no real anger when they went 2-0 up. Yeah, there's some booing at half time and there's some booing at full time, but that aside, wasn't really any booing. There was one or two who booed when they saw that Souček was coming on, but to be honest, that was a handful, maybe 5 or 6 voices in the whole crowd. It was, people were just expecting it. They were expecting that result last night, and they weren't surprised.
Yeah, I know.
So it's horrible.
So going back to what, because I've not seen this article. I know you mentioned it at the start. So Jacob Steinberg has said definitively that he's got the full backing of the ball, does he? Just to reiterate,
he has said that. And let me say, there was something else earlier in this article as well that said, basically quoting the board. Listen to this. You'll like this, right?
Yeah.
I think we've heard this from a few weeks ago, but anyway, it said, if David Moyes was unemployed and we were looking for a manager, then he would be exactly the person we would bring in.
Yeah.
And
So
amazing. So you'd hire
Sean Dyche is going to be the next one. So
I think
they've let
so.
on to the fact that it's going to be Sean Dyche when he goes.
I think that is the inevitable conclusion of this, right? Because
And you know what? Sorry to interrupt, but what Scott mentioned yesterday, which is something that we've been saying from day one, which is that the issue that we've got now is the fact that we've got a group of players, a collection of players that don't fit the manager. You need for them to excel, you need a forward-thinking manager. You need somebody that can play a progressive game, and you've got to look at that. That's part of the reason that David Moyes is failing. So for them to rectify that, it's almost like a David Moyes substitution where he takes like for like off, but he don't change tactics. When we're losing in a game, he'll take one player off for another one. He don't change anything. This is exactly what that would be. Now, I do agree with what I've said before, where I've said I think that part of the problem is that David Moyes, as well as tactical, David Moyes has he's put a cloud over the club now because he's got problems there with relationships and stuff like that. And by removing David Moyes, you do remove that cloud, and probably, I hope, anybody that does come in should have enough to with the players that we've got to get us out of trouble. But for them to do that, for them to not identify the blatantly obvious, which is we've got a collection of brilliant flair players that they've gone out and spent a fortune on, and to think we've got to now go out and get a manager to fit these players, surely. No.
They are actually mugging themselves off, aren't they?
They are.
They're mugging themselves off because they've gone out and they've actually put their money where their mouth is. They've backed the manager with big money. Right, we have signed. You're absolutely right. We've signed. We've got a very good team, a very good squad. When you look at it,
surely
the only
a few little weaknesses here and there, but on the whole, it's a good squad.
Surely the only missing ingredient is a good manager to tie all those pieces together, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, common sense tells you that. You know, you probably couldn't say the same about the Avram Grant team that got relegated. Maybe that had significant weaknesses in it. But yeah, it's and what they did with Avram Grant, just as a reminder, is they just let him go the whole season and get us relegated, even though it was pretty bloody obvious around Christmas time that he should have been gone.
What was going to happen?
Yeah. And there is a danger that they'll do that again because, again, it's something that Scott said last night, and I think it's something we don't consider very often, right? And that is we are owned by two old blokes who are in their 70s and 80s, right?
Yeah,
late 70s and 80s. They're not going to think like you and me. They're not going to think like they're probably a progressive football manager. That the idea of that terrifies them. They don't want that.
No.
They want what they've always known, which is to our minds a dinosaur, but to their minds a solid manager. And I think this is where the problem's going to come from. They know that they're going to look bloody stupid if they sack Moyes today or they sack him after the league games.
That's part of it. That's part of it. I think that they're well aware. They've thrown our future on a roulette table. They've kind of backed their belief in Moyes.
Yeah.
And they need it to work. And they know that when they do pull the trigger, they know how ridiculous they're going to look for the opportunity that they've just allowed to pass them by.
But I wish they knew that. I wish they would know the way many West Ham fans feel, and it's not like it's not a case of we want to say I told you so, right? Because that's past now. That's done. If they sacked him now, it would still be the right move. It would still be absolutely the right move. And everyone gets things wrong, but if you get it wrong consistently, and you end up getting us relegated, then you've just failed so badly, right? You've got a chance to redeem this. Now, we've got the Leeds game coming up. There are two ways looking at this. Either he's got the 3 games that was rumoured, after the World Cup, right? That culminates in the Leeds game. I've always said, my prediction out of these 3 games was 0 points, right? I've said that all the way through. I think you went for 1 point, didn't you?
No, I said I expected nothing from this. This was before Christmas, but I worry we're going to get 1 point. I worry we're going to get a draw away at Leeds because they leak goals, and then what? That resets the clock.
Well, I don't think a draw resets the clock. I don't think.
I think it will. If they haven't sacked him now, Gary, and they're going to stick with him until Leeds, and he gets a draw, I don't know what to.
What terrifies me more,
I can't believe, even though it's Jacob Steinberg, he obviously has got connections. He's a well-respected journalist. There's other people that have come out and said similar as well. We know that you've got to read between the lines. We know that what the board say and what they do can be 2 different things. And what I'm gonna kind of hold on to is that yes, David Sullivan and David Gold, they're old, they're stuck in their ways. They
Yeah,
would want to back him and not lose face. But at some point, Gary, there's 12 people on that board now, and I know they're the major shareholders. But at
yeah.
some point, we know that Kretinsky is kind of he's a backroom investor. He's not really getting involved, but even he will be looking at this situation. You would think at some point, and he'd be making a phone call, going, "What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
The manager is failing. You know, my investment is going down the toilet. What are you doing? You can't stick with him. Replace him."
You would have thought so. You would have thought so. When it gets to that
Yeah,
point where there's real danger, and I think when is that point likely to happen? Where is the point of no return in, Nick? Because we were having a conversation with someone earlier, and they're saying, "Oh, he's got until the Everton game. He's got the whole of January, basically, right?
yeah,
He's got the whole January, which is 3 more games and 3 more winnable games. It is next. It's Leeds and then Wolves and then Everton, right? That's the three
yeah.
games."
That's a good point. What Richard Stevens has just come out with there. I'm beginning to think that the past 2 seasons were the blip. I think they were.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, if you read what Noble said in the Guardian, this is the incoming saviour.
He's winding me up at the moment. To be quite honest.
Yeah, incoming saviour Mark Noble is kind of taking the attitude that we were running hot in the last couple of years, and this is just us returning to normal temperature, which is all right. It's a sort of current.
But David Moyes is doing that in his post-match interviews. Like he did it the other day. It's almost like he's peddling his own propaganda, the same as a Balder doing. He's basically saying, "I did really well. I overachieved in the first 2 years,
Yeah.
and basically you were nothing before I came, and I lifted you. I lifted you up, and all that's I'm trying to stop you from slipping back from where you were before I picked you up." I mean, he's peddling, he's gaslighting the fans, and he is as much as everyone else, peddles their propaganda, as much as we blame the board for doing it, David Moyes is doing that as well.
Resetting our expectations to something less than where they rose to. And another statement from Declan Rice this morning. First of all, don't blame the manager, but he comes out with this long tirade of nonsense, going, "Look, West Ham is a massive club." It's like, oh, don't even go there, Dec. I mean, we're not massive enough for you to want to stay with us, are we, Mr. Captain?
No.
So don't even. I stopped reading at that point. I just thought you're just bullshitting us now.
Well, he is the same as David Moyes. I think whoever Sullivan employs, he's not going to employ anyone that challenges him. He's not going to. Therefore, whoever comes in is going to toe the party line. They're going to use whatever mediums they've got. David Moyes writes in that column that he writes in. Whatever they've got, that they will peddle the bold narrative because that's their job. They're employed to be good boys.
Just go out this bald after you just go out 2 things, right? Firstly, by hook or by crook, we survive this season. And I frankly don't care how it happens as long as we survive. I don't even care if Moyes stays as long as we survive and he starts picking out some points. He'd be gone in the summer anyway, right? He's going, whether he goes now, whether he goes at the end of January, whether he goes in the summer, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's toast, right? Now, so there's that. And then
one second. I said I was going to mention this. I had a WhatsApp from James, who's been on the show before from Claret Blues, Dave Hurst's mate. And he basically said, do we think that the board are waiting for David Moyes to drop into the bottom 3 because there could be a clause in the contracts that means there's no...
Very interesting.
That's what he said. Do we think that could be the case?
I was listening to The Price of Football this week, right? Which is a great podcast. You should listen to it, right? And he was going on about David Moyes' contract at Man United. And you know what happened there? He got given a 6-year contract with Man United, right? And there was a clause in that contract that said if within the first 12 months, the first season, he didn't qualify for the Champions League, then he would only get a year's severance, right?
Yeah.
So they waited until the very game, which happened 10 months into his contract. They waited until after the game where they could no longer qualify for the Champions League, and they fired him and only had to pay him 12 months. So there's very much, there are these funny clauses. That could be a point. I thought that yesterday after hearing that podcast.
Because I suppose in their point of view, you might look at it one or two ways. They're either deluded or they might be absolutely sure at this point he's going to drop into the bottom 3. It could happen this weekend. It could be that. And I suppose at that point, if that is the case...
And what's the trigger point, Nick? Is it halfway through the season? Is it halfway through the season? 19 games, maybe? 19 games we're in the bottom 3.
I don't know. And that could be why they're waiting for the Leeds game. I don't know. But nonetheless, it's ridiculous because it's madness. When you consider what it would actually cost us to to get relegated. It would be irreparable damage to us financially. For them to mess around, penny pinching on getting out of paying him compensation, which isn't going to be a huge amount. Look at the money we waste regularly, routinely on players that we bring in and then sell at a loss. It's madness to do that, because these next 3 games, I'm convinced now, the next 3 ones, which are 6-pointers, are the biggest games they're going to define our season. If we were to lose to Leeds, Wolves and Everton, which it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility, I think that all 3 of those teams are more galvanised and are showing more fight than what we are at the moment. If we was to lose those games, whoever comes in at that point has an uphill struggle.
Yeah. How many games we played already? Is it 16?
16 or 17 now, I think.
Right, because halfway is 19, right? So I'm thinking if
you 17, it's got to be 17 after that one, isn't it?
Okay, let's have a look.
Yeah, 17 games.
17.
Yeah,
so 2 games. So that would be the Leeds game and then Wolves, right?
Yeah.
And that would be the halfway point of the season. So there's still been 19 games to go, plenty of points up for grabs and stuff like that. Who knows? I think either way.
If that is the case, they're really taking a fucking risk, aren't they, to save themselves a few quid?
Well, they are, but I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of a way that
trying to
they
justify
might be
it,
thinking about it. I'm trying to justify it in their minds, right?
Yeah.
How would they justify it in their minds? And what I'm thinking is, the next 3 games, are you going to get a manager in now? We've got these 3 games coming up, one after the other. You're going to get a manager in now who's going to be able to change things around to win one or all of those games. Yeah. Maybe you might nick one of them, but at the end of the day, you've got 3 very tough games coming after that. You've got Newcastle, Chelsea and Tottenham, right?
Yeah.
That might be the best 3 games to bed in a new manager, because the new manager is expected to lose.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I don't think that is the right way of doing it, though, because you would never want, I know what you're saying, but you would never want a new manager to start off on you'd want to bring them in, because these are, even though these 3 games that we've got coming up, they're massive and they're going to be fights, they're 3 winnable games because they're all struggling. So against Leeds, Everton and Wolves are all about our level. We should be able to nick some points out of that. The way that Tottenham have always done it, whenever they've brought in a new manager, I quite admire the way they do it. I admire very little about Spurs, but whenever they bring a new manager in, they do like a soft landing. And they seem to do it at a time where the manager has a run of games where they can just go on and just, they can go and get 5 or 6 wins under their belt. They seem to time it right every single time. Yeah. Because the thing is, you might say they're not important, but even though you wouldn't expect to win them, if we're in the bottom 3 and then you lose 3 more, even though you wouldn't expect to lose them, it ain't going to get any easier for that manager. It's
no. But these are games. We're West Ham. We're not Tottenham, so we would actually expect to lose. No one was losing their shit after getting beat by Arsenal, for instance. I mean, it's disappointing, but no one's losing their shit over it, right? And no one's going to lose their shit if we lose away to Newcastle or against Chelsea or Tottenham. I think Tottenham's away, Chelsea is at home, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So the most we'd probably expect usually out of those 3 fixtures would be maybe a draw at home to Chelsea. We don't beat them very often.
We don't expect anything anymore, because that's the thing, Gary. We literally we were originally, up until November last year, we were getting results off of these teams, but that's all fallen away. The West Ham of old that we've all grown up with, we're used to, as fair enough, being a bit crap. But you always felt like you had a chance against the bigger teams, even though I'm not saying we used to beat them all the time, but we always used to have a go. We've got a manager that doesn't believe now. You heard him in the pre-match Arsenal press conference thing. He was kind of, look, the best time to play him was 3 years ago. I agree, Moyes. Before you was here was the best time to play him. Yeah. But you know what he's saying? He's trying to. He's lining us all up for defeat. He's laying down the foundations of his excuses already. That's what he's doing.
So the board could be thinking of a few things. They could be thinking that, number one, there could be a relegation clause of some kind that might get them off of paying him a load of severance, right? Number 2, they might be giving him until the end of January, because it's only 3 more games, and they might want to just, exhaust all the options and let the transfer window run out, so they don't have to spend any more money. Right,
that's it. What about it's from John here? Do you think the real passion has gone from our support now, Gary? It's worrying that this sense of apathy is set in.
Well, there is no passion over there at the moment, John. There isn't. It's rubbish over there, and it has been rubbish over there all season. I was just speaking to our cousin Paul last night, and he said it's just been awful. all season, and it really has. You know, we had such a great season last year. We had so many good nights and good days over at London Stadium. The atmosphere was bouncing. You remember, even you commented on it, Nick, when you went to the early game against Leicester, how vibrant it was over there when everyone was fully engaged. But that is
probably the first time I felt like that place could become home.
Yeah, and then we had Seville, nights like Seville and Lyon and things like that. And then, you know, so it showed you that it is a big game stadium. When you've got a big game, it's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
You can really build an atmosphere, and it can be intimidating. But the other 95% of the time, when you're playing a regular game like yesterday, you know, none of us really are going to get excited with a game at home against Brentford. We're not going to get excited, right?
Yeah.
The only regular league games we'd get excited by typically would be, you know, the big ones and against the rivals and stuff like that. Or unless the team do something on the pitch to excite the fans and get them going, like happened against Leicester last year and several other clubs. That is what we were doing. The players did their thing. What we're doing now is we're literally just turning up and going through the motions. I'm driving down the A12. I've literally got a really easy commute.
Yeah.
I was having a chat earlier with you know, Chris Miles, who's been on this show, and our friend Gary Stewart. They're both based up north. They both travel endless amount of miles every year to go and watch West Ham. Chris has even got season tickets, you know, and he lives way up north.
And he never believes that we're going to win either.
No, he never does. And these two, two of the most diehard fans you're ever going to come across, follow us all over the country. They're starting to lose interest, right? And these are people who have been doing it for years. Because what are they traveling? You know, what would Gary be doing? You know, traveling down from up north, staying in a hotel. Same with Chris. You know, and then traveling back again for, you know, a few £100 later to watch that turgid
and you're referring to two guys in Chris and Gary who don't have the financial strains and worry. That's not the reason they're doing it.
They've got the money.
But there are so many, like Kent on his Facebook group, and he's kind of connected to the travelling away support because he goes everywhere. So a lot of the hardcore fans, if you like. And he put out a message yesterday saying he can't believe and he's saddened that so many of the old school fans are going to be are not going to be renewing their season tickets, because that's the thing. For those that are struggling as well, West Ham are going to be slipping so far down the pecking order of priorities at the moment, because what football should always be, and this is what I've said before, they should be, even if you're struggling in life, football should be a release. It should be. I said it on the show the other day.
Should be fun. Should be fun.
You should be going out watching 11 blokes giving everything to beat the opposition, even if you don't get a result. And we don't get that, and that is why I've kind of fell in love with people of when I talk about Postecoglou now. It's just basically because of the guy's philosophy and the way that he talks and stuff like that. That is a type of manager that I want. A guy that gets it. A guy that gets us. I think a manager or a manager like him would be a breath of fresh air, and that is what we need now. And what I will say, what Iron's analysis has said here, because we've spoken about Sean Dyche, is this is key, and it is true. That is one massive difference between David Moyes and Sean Dyche, and that's what we're massively lacking. And that's why I'm convinced that this has fallen apart at the seams for David Moyes at West Ham, because David Moyes can't manage people. Sean Dyche can. He is a man manager.
Yeah.
So there is a difference. Even though his style of play, stereotypical style of play that we think he would play when he came in, wouldn't be what we wanted. I do think that is a true. That's a good point. It's a good point.
I'd be willing to give him a go. If only for the look on Cornet's face when he sees the big orange glow around the.
You're fucking hell. I know.
He's turning up in the treatment room and there's a big orange glow. So,
I know.
Evening, Maxwell. How you doing? Morning.
Right. What we'll do, are you ready to go into the player ratings yet?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we do, thank you to everyone that tuned in last night. That was mental. There was loads,
big views last night.
Massive views. We got a load of new subs as well. Bit of a subs explosion. Yeah. So for everyone who sort of donated in the super chat, thank you very much. I do apologise if I missed anyone. I use software when we use this one, which is StreamYard. We can see the chat coming up on the right hand side, and it shows you when someone's donated. Well, the software that I was using last night, it doesn't. It just shows it as a comment. So I did go back and I think I thanked everyone that did sort of donate and put a little super chat in there. But if I did miss anyone, I do apologise. It's all very much appreciated. And Old School Paul donated to us on PayPal last night as well with a lovely message for us all.
Cheers, Paul.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much, mate. We'll talk about all of that in the new year. But yeah, okay, right, that's fine. I'm nowhere near through the
No,
bloody comments. I'm going to
and
keep
the
whizzing
subs,
through them, but
the additional subs that we've had since we started pushing for subs a few days ago, it's been amazing. It's been amazing
it has been.
the number of subs, because we were looking to get to 4,000, weren't we? And where are we now?
We're I don't know. We're up to about 4-1. We've
It's
gained
over
about
4-1 now.
we've gained about 200 subs in a few days.
Yeah, it's amazing. So thank you all for that.
Yeah.
It's really good. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing it. It's all free. You just need to sign up to your Google account or log into your Google account, and then you can.
That's it.
Yeah, you can subscribe.
Right, 1 minute. Let's get this. Let's get me thing up.
Oh, this will be fun.
Yeah, shouldn't take too long.
You got the donkey back?
The donkey's back. You can see him. Look, he's there.
Excellent.
Where's me matrix?
It'll be needed.
There it is. Right. Okay. Right. Let's get. Sorry, Deadpool. I'm gonna have to take your comment off the screen just very quickly. Right. I'll start where you are, and then we'll go back through these in a bit.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to whiz down to the bottom now because there's loads of comments there, and I'll start again from now without. So put your ratings in. I'll flick them up and flick them up on the screen. Then we'll have a little chat afterwards. So Gary, go on. You start us off with Fabianski.
Fabianski, look, he made a first of all, he shouldn't have been playing, right? But nonetheless, he made a good save leading to the Tony goal. Yeah, he made a good save in the second half. His distribution was woeful and slow. I'm going to give him I'll give him a 6. He didn't do much wrong apart from the distribution.
Was you behind the goal when we was 1-0 down and he just held on to that ball?
Yeah, give him a no. You've reminded me now, so give him a 5. Give him a 5 because he was Paqueta poor. In that instance, Paqueta had come back to get the ball off him, right?
Yeah,
and he just stood there looking at him. There looking at him, clutching the ball. 5.
No, there's some 4s. Sofiane Jones says 5. Black Country 4. Yeah, no, I think we're all aligned. He was poor. Even the one where you said he made a good save for the and this isn't. I think this is beyond his capacity because he's getting older. I think he's like I say, he makes me look agile now.
He couldn't get up for the rebound.
I said that yesterday. He couldn't get up for the rebound. A younger manager, a more agile manager, goalkeeper would have maybe bounced back up. But that's not his fault.
Him for that. I'll blame his age.
He don't pick himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I will do. I'll do Cresswell.
Man, you have just gone 1 up.
Who against? Are they playing?
Wolves, I think.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Cresswell, everyone. Gal, do you want to put the comments up for Cresswell?
Yeah, of course.
I think Cresswell, that was one of his worst games. He was absolutely dreadful. He was a car crash. It was a car crash performance. I thought his positioning was terrible. I thought the partnership with Emerson, who we'll get onto in a bit, was absolutely pointless. Some of their sort of interplay was just it was they were just passing back and forth to each other at times. It took ages for him to get a ball into the box, and when we eventually did, Skamaka was marked by 2 or 3 people. Defensively, he was embarrassing. And like I say, those 3 defenders, we'll get onto the rest of them in a minute, and it isn't all of their fault. He was the main culprit, but to have that little pace in your backline against a team that played 2 up front against 2 pretty quick players and strong players, it was madness. So although it was refreshing that he changed things, Moyes, he didn't fix everything. There were still gaps in what he'd done in his selections. It was wrong. So Cresswell was fucking awful. I'm sorry. I'm going to give him a 2.
He just let that player run past him, didn't he? I mean, clearly he's got the 2 red cards in the back of his mind. Didn't want to bring him down.
It was ridiculous. So Cresswell, you were shit.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Listen, he was rubbish, and he shouldn't be playing in the left side of a back 3. He shouldn't be.
No,
but that's where we are. In fact, we shouldn't be playing with a back 3.
No. For anyone that's new to the match player ratings, right? We don't choose who we're gonna mount a donkey on their heads. It's on the matrix up there. So if you get between a 0 and a 4, you automatically get a fucking donkey on your head. Okay. Right, Gary. Ogbonna.
Right. Okay. Look, rough introduction back into the Premier League football from Ogbonna. I think yesterday really showed up his lack of pace. He doesn't have any, does he?
No.
He looked very slow as part of a very slow back 3. Having said that, I wouldn't blame him for either of the goals, apart from maybe the second one. He should have
He was
been
caught out of
helping out
position, wasn't he?
Cresswell. He should have been kept helping out Cresswell with the with that one, but I blame Cresswell much more than I do Bono. So I'll give him a 5.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want to take Dawson as well while we're at it, and I'll stick on the comments?
Dawson, look, I mean, we come to man of the match after. It could be his second one in a row. Absolutely dominant in the air, dominant defensively. Our only goal threat, our only decent defender, our only defender who didn't make a diabolical balls up, right?
Yeah.
It's been said before. Big Dawson's got it all. He has, passing, goal threat, defending. What has Dawson not got? I'm going to give him an 8.
Yeah, I think he was superb. He was wonderful yesterday. In a team that was fucking awful.
Absolutely,
really bad. He's just Mr. Reliable, the guy.
Yeah,
he's Mr. Reliable, and do you know what? He ain't just a clogger either. He can pass the ball, and do you know something? There was a couple of moments yesterday. There was a couple of moments where he even pressed high up the pitch and he munched Tony, and he was. You know what we were saying against Arsenal, where we needed players to be a bit more bullish.
Yeah.
He was like that today. He was showing a bit of fight, and I love that. And we don't see enough of it. We don't see enough of it in our team.
He munched him twice, didn't he? One after the other. He munched him twice. Exactly that. I mean, really, looking at the team, there's only one captain in that team, isn't there?
Yeah, no, it's Dawson all the way. Rice. I mean, we'll get on to Rice because I think Rice had a good game, so I'll rate Rice. I know in the first half, I thought he was tremendous. To be quite honest, I think him and Paqueta were partnering very well. So Rice was doing the box to box role. Paqueta was kind of sitting in the hole, dictating play. I think Paqueta got slammed yesterday for the entire game. He did fade. He faded dramatically, but initially he was bang involved. Paqueta, he was involved in everything, and Rice was everywhere. He was up and down. His tackling was really good, but in the second half he fell apart, and we can't have our captain doing that. So I would say he was an 8 in the first half, but probably a 5 in the second half, if I'm honest. A lot of people are saying 6, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I think 6. I think 6 is about right. It was average. I think it evened out. I think he was. It's not good enough for the level of player that we know that he is. It wasn't good enough.
You know what? We've been giving him license to roam forward and puff out his chest and drive and everything else, right?
Yeah.
It's pointless him doing that if all he's going to do is get to just outside the 18-yard box and pass sideways.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's kind of what he's not naturally an attacking player.
So don't use him as one.
He hasn't got what you can't do with Declan Rice. You see forward players, creative players. They've got vision. They can see things. That other players can't. I think Declan Rice has got defensive vision. I think he knows where to move into space to cut out. He can do that. He's got those instincts. But the instincts that you've got further forward, to sort of see a pass and to see a run, I don't think he's quite got that, which is why you do end up quite often seeing a sideways pass.
But perhaps if you're going to go back to basics and you're going to play to our strengths, that is not one of our strengths. That's a strength he wants to build into his game. He doesn't have it yet. He hasn't. This ain't the place for him to learn. So back to basics. Get back there.
This ain't the time for him to learn. This ain't the time for him to learn. No. So Gary, Paqueta.
Paqueta, well, I think you covered a lot of the early signs in the game were good, right? He looked good. He had more touches in the first 2 minutes than he's had all season. And we were sort of, this is a new Paqueta. We quite like this. Yeah. As the game went on, he faded badly,
really badly,
and he's got a lack of subtlety. I would say he will try and play the killer pass, whether it's on or not, and irrespective of what the dangers are in playing that ball. He has no sense of danger, so he will just lose possession in a really bad area. For those reasons, I'll give him a 5.
Yeah, he was never a 4. He was never a 4, but some of it's like you just said there. I like the fact that we've got a player that has vision, that does see, that does. Well, I say he's got vision. Sometimes it looks as though he's just kicking the ball into space. He must pass forward at all costs. Sometimes with him, I wish he would pass sideways on occasion. If there isn't a pass on, square it. Yeah. Build it slow. It seems like he's always looking for that kind of worldy pass. So no, I agree with that. I think 5's fair.
This is where I think having a proper sitting CDM behind him would really help to tidy up his messes. I know it's a bit of a belt and braces thing, but if you're going to give him license to go and roam and play those balls, someone's got to be helping tidy up after him, right? Mopping up after him, and I think that one should be Downs.
Yeah, apparently Man U are 2-0 up. Rashford double, according to Mandy.
Good old Rashford.
Hammerhead he just says donkey them all.
Donkey them all. Yeah.
You mad man. God. Right, okay, right. I'll move on to Emerson.
Okay.
Hang on, what's going on here? I'll move on to Emerson. Right, this player, I feel bad going in on him because he isn't a player that's been bedded in. As you know, the only way. But then again, he shouldn't need to adapt to the fucking Premier League. He's experienced in the Premier League. You know, he knows the game. I know he had a chance, didn't he? He had a shot on goal, but he was defensively crap. I don't know whether he doesn't understand his role, but in my mind, I thought he was a wing back. I thought that was his strongest position, but he was rubbish. I mean.
Partly responsible for the first goal as well. Him and Crespo, neither of them reacted to the second ball, right?
He was so bad. I mean, it feels like Masuaku Mark II. And like I say, maybe that is a little bit too strong. Maybe a lot of these players, Scamacca, Paqueta, Emerson, like we said at the start of the season, maybe we're expecting too much of these players to come into what feels like now maybe a toxic environment, a shit team environment. Maybe they're not going to look good while Moyes is here. Maybe they're just not going to, because I don't think any of them are. None of them are. The new players. They're all, apart from Downs when he comes on, he always looks all right, but the rest of them, not really. They're getting worse. So when Moyes talks about bedding players in, these players are regressing. They're going backwards.
He's not playing to their strengths. He's not playing a system that complements them. He's just using the players in his system and saying, well, you better make it work, lads.
No. First of, I'm sure, many donkeys for Emerson. So there you go, mate. It was an awful performance.
So well-deserved donkey.
Right, Soufal, he's one that really fucked me off. I mean,
Soufal.
Work rate, yes. Everything else, no. He was shit. He really was. Wasted so many
in many
crosses.
ways, it reminds me of another version of. He's like the right back version of Souček, isn't he? He runs around a lot.
He does.
The end result is bloody woeful. He can't cross the ball. He can't cross the ball. No matter how many times he tries, he can't
unchallenged as well. There was sometimes, Gary, where he had no pressure on him. Yeah. None. The one, I go back to the Ogbonna one, where Ogbonna was in the box. He had no one around him. And you know what Sam used to say? You put the ball in the corridor of uncertainty in between the keeper and the players. Yeah. He literally bent it behind Ogbonna. So even Ogbonna gets his head on it, but there's nothing he can do with it. Every cross he put in was crap. It was terrible.
Or the position of maximum opportunity, which was the far post, if you remember.
That's the one, right? Yes, yeah.
Yeah, don't you? Get it. Yeah, but no, but the first one was the right one. You put it in a position where the keeper can't just gather it without putting themselves out of position themselves, right? Because they make the keeper think about it, whether they're going to come out and get it or whether they're going to stay.
It also puts the defenders in a sticky situation because they don't want to score an own goal, and all the attacking players got to do is get a flick on it.
Give him a 4.
He was crap.
Give him a 3.
3, good.
Yeah.
He was definitely crap. Right, so donkeys are starting to build
today.
Hang on. Okay, I'll go on Bowen. We won't do the subs. There's no point. So Bowen,
no, we should do the subs because Antonio played a fairly big part in the game yesterday as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I know. Right, we will do. Bowen, I thought he was okay. I thought he looked busy, especially in the first half. He looked very sharp running in from the right hand side. I thought he did look very good, to be quite honest. But that was in the first half. Again, it's another one of those situations where I just think he disappeared. I think he was possibly a 7 in the first half. Second half, I don't know how you score him because he weren't in a game. He weren't at the races at all. So for me, he was a 4 or a 5. But I'll probably hold off giving him a donkey. I'll give him a 5 for it. I'll be nice to Bone because he was doing well in the first half.
I think that's fair. He wasn't that bad. He was
shit in the second half.
But in the second half. I think 5 below average is probably about right. But he didn't really win that penalty. He should have won that penalty in the second half. Yeah, right.
No, I know.
And he had a little run shortly after that as well. What he did all right. He just didn't do very much of it.
Right, Gary Scamacca.
Oh my God, Skamaka, where do you start? Where do you start with
Just
Skamaka? I mean,
looks. I
look,
don't get it.
no service. They're clearly the strategy yesterday was to put Skamaka in the middle, put a big man in the middle, and aim loads of balls at him. Right. Literally, the only one that reached him was a really gentle, soft cross that he and frankly, I thought he had time to do something else with it other than just plant a poor header directly at the keeper, which was like a back pass. I thought at the time he had no defenders near him. I don't know if you can tell me whether he was right, whether that's right or not.
No.
But and he had some great early movement in the game. And again, I'm talking about the first 15 minutes before the first Brentford goal went in. I thought he looked quite impressive. Then it all went to crap, right? I mean, from that point on, first 15 minutes aside, he didn't look interested. He didn't look interested. He was getting no service, fair enough. But go looking for the ball, mate. Go looking for the ball. Use yourself. He stopped doing what he was doing in the first 15 minutes, which was he was very active. If you watched his, plenty of movement and everything else. Then later on in the game, when Antonio comes on, there was a point where both Antonio and him were just walking.
They can't play together, those two. If you're going to play anyone together, I think if you're going to play two up front, play Skamaka and Bowen. I think
if you're going to play 4-4-2, at least what you've got. I think is you've got two competing strikers there who probably don't like each other very much. They both think they're the starting striker. They're probably not prone to helping each other out when they're both played together. And I think if you're going to create competition like that, don't
forget, he did have a chance yesterday, right, which he created himself, and it was a beautiful turn. Yeah. I think it was at 2-0 where he literally rolled and shot, and it was a bullet as well. And this is the issue. What Ballon Dawson's saying here, you judge a striker by his service. He had none. And I do think it doesn't matter who you are at some point, unless you are just going to keep on running down blind alleys for no reasons, which not many players would do. At some point, it's going to grind on you and it's going to wear you down. And I
totally agree. I
don't think it's a lack of effort from him.
I agree with what he's saying, but there was that middle part of the game. The first 15 minutes, he looked great. There was that middle part of the game where he did bugger all. Antonio came on, and then he had that shot at the end, and then he had the wild shot after that. He suddenly sort of come to life a little while after Antonio came on.
A good point by Mandy. A striker must also create space for others.
Exactly. And I think that's what they started to do just for about 5 minutes, didn't last very long, was you had, Antonio occupying the defenders, and that is when Skamaka got a little bit of room and he had that shot, and then he had that other shot, right? Because that's going to happen when you play two strikers. But they did look like they'd never met each other.
So what's your score, Gary?
5.
It's a 5. Okay. And I think you're being generous there as well.
You reckon I should give him a 4?
No, I'm not saying you should. No, you should stick with it. But I'm saying I don't think we're being unfair with that score at all. I think that is. It was below average. It was.
Yeah.
Ben Rama for me. I thought a massive bright spark in the first half. He was tremendous. He was really having to go at the fullback. Can't think of the bloke's name. But he was buzzing about all over the place. He looks really. The funny thing is, we know that David Moyes dislikes Ben Rama immensely. We all saw his reaction to his penalty the other day. Just stood there stony faced. But ironically, Ben Rama is the one that he seems to be actively trying in this team. I mean,
he does
really going above and beyond. He's running all over the place. He's also trying to track back, which isn't his game. He's trying to do that. He doesn't do it very well, because he's got sticky feet, and against Odegaard, where he tried to step over in our own 18-yard box in the Arsenal game. He's not a defender. I do think that with a player like that, because of what he offers as an attacking threat, we can afford to leave one player sort of further up. It should be Ben Rama, because he looks quick as well. He actually looks like he's got a little bit of pace this year. He was beating players. He was whizzing past them. Yeah. So for me, I think he was definitely one of the better players, and he tried hard the whole way through the game. I thought he did. Everyone faded in the second half, but he weren't as bad as Bowen.
He never gave up. He never gave up.
He didn't give up. So for me, it's a 7. It's a 7 for Benny.
I think that's fair.
Well, Gary, I'll let you mark the subs. Go on, Antonio.
All right. First. So I don't think we can mark Souček. He was on for a couple of minutes, wasn't he?
Yeah, thank God.
So he don't deserve a donkey today.
He did complete 4 passes in that time. I was counting them. That was good.
Half as many as he did against Arsenal.
Yeah. But So he was. Okay. He must have been chuffed.
So a blinding move from Moyes though, to swap out Paqueta for Souček.
yeah.
I mean, what the hell was that about? But anyway, so I'm more question Moyes than I question Souček there. Antonio, he came on. He went on a couple of wild runs. He tried ferociously to put in a cross at the end, I think 3 or 4 times, and he kept bouncing back at him. He's not blessed with a lot of quality, is he, Antonio? But he is a trier, and I'll give him an average. I'll give him a 6.
Oh, I've completely lost it on the chat. I don't know what's happened here. You're going for him. It keeps on jumping. So sorry, what did you give him? What was that?
I'll give him a 6. Yeah.
You can't really give him. You can't. It's difficult to mark a sub that comes on that late.
It's unfair. He played 25 minutes. I think in that 25 minutes, he made that run where he did the embarrassing air shot. But it wasn't half a good run, wasn't it?
It was a good run, but fucking hell.
Yeah, I know. It was embarrassing. Yeah.
It was bad.
People are marking him down quite a lot. And I think maybe if he played like that for the whole game, right? If it was a 90 minutes, then I think I'd give him a 5 or a 4. But it wasn't. It was 25
minutes. Ultimately, we're all angry that we lost 2-0 at home to Bournemouth, I'm calling them now, to Brentford. At the end of the day, he wasn't the reason that we lost that game. He wasn't. He wasn't the reason. So we can't really be angry with him. It wasn't his fault. Souček, just I was saying, we have 6 average. You can't really mark him. You know.
Give him an average. That's what I'm saying. With the subs, it's difficult, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Right. David Moyes.
You're going to do David Moyes today?
Yeah. Go on. I'll do him.
Go on.
Look, starting lineup. We got news that we was expecting a formation change about 2 hours before kickoff. So I kind of expected him to match up against the back 3 of Brentford because that's typically what he does. You know, Moyes has a plan A and he has a plan B. Far be it for David Moyes to think, I'm going to do something that's going to make Thomas Frank think twice. Oh no. We adapted at home to the opposition. We just tried to match them up. Match up against a team that play this way week in, week out. There's your first fault. What he did do though, he did drop Souček. That was refreshing. And how much better did the lineup look without him in it?
Lots.
Not to hate on Souček, but it looked so much better, you know. And to start off with, it did look good. I did have concerns with Fabianski, with the lack of pace in that back 3, because I think if you're going to have a back 3, it's got to be Kehrer in there because Kehrer gives you pace. So if you're playing Dawson and Ogbonna, play Kehrer because it gives you recovery pace. I don't know why Cresswell was there. I know that Kehrer has been at fault for quite a few goals this year, but at the end of the day, we've bought Kehrer from a side that doesn't play backs to the wall defending. They don't do that. So he's not Dawson. Kehrer isn't Dawson. But if you're playing a higher line, Kehrer will be a better player because that's the type of football that he plays if you're holding onto the ball. But no, he's not a backs to the wall defender. But in that system that we played yesterday, ironically, where Cresswell was, that should have been Kehrer. Or where Soufal was on the right-hand side, I was devastated to see that he was over there on the right-hand side because I knew what the game plan was going to be, that it was going to be route 1 from the wings, not route 1, but just fucking like the you know, just blitzing balls into the box. And Soufal can't deliver anything, and he didn't address it once. You know, he brought on Scamacca late on, like another body in the box, but didn't once think to himself, "Hang on a minute, I've got to address the root cause here. We're not getting good quality into the box." He didn't do it. The second half, right? He just sat on his hands. Thomas Frank made changes before him. He made changes before him. He was awful. He looked like a deer caught in the headlights. I'm sorry for me. It's I can't mark him. It was just poor management. It was poor management. He sent a team out in a formation, a selection that probably we couldn't all argue with too much, but they looked ill prepared. Thomas Frank tactically had him in his pocket. He never once. I know you was at the game, Gary, but even when we was in the ascendancy, not once did Thomas Frank look rattled. Not once.
We said it. We said in the ground when Thomas Frank made substitutions at 2-0 up early in the second half. We're thinking he's making substitutions to try and
he's forecasting what Moyes is going to do. That's what he was doing.
Well, he's making substitutions to try and close the game out, right?
Yeah.
So he's been proactive. He hasn't waited for us to nick a goal or anything like that. He's done it lovely and early, and then Moyes waits until after the 64th minute, I was saying, to bring Antonio on.
He didn't wait until we went to 4-4-2 and got a goal back before he changed things.
It was the very next minute. It was the very next stoppage, actually, that he bought another defender and changed it around. I mean, that honestly, if you're rating manager against manager, I mean, I think he got the selection. I'm not going to say the formation right because I don't think we've ever won with a back three under David Moyes.
No,
back three, back five, and to play. And you know what? When he always seems to play it, Nick, and I don't know if you've noticed this, is when we've got some injury problems in defence, he seems to think that having more defenders is better than having fewer defenders.
I know.
So he goes for 5 rather than 4, and he plays a load of people out of position. Cresswell, you might get away with playing him there against a team who's got no pace, but at the end of the day, it was a bad decision, wasn't it? What did you mark him, by the way? Did you give him a donkey?
He got one. He got a donkey, yeah.
He got a donkey.
He got a donkey,
okay.
Yeah. Of course he did. Goes without saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So that was that. So anyway, look, the rumours are at the moment that that the club have backed David Moyes. I don't hold anything by that. I know they're coming from good sources, Jacob Steinberg and whoever else, But like I say, that can all change. There's got to be. You would imagine at this point, there's going to have to be conversations. There's going to have to be board meetings. What justification can David Moyes give to the likes of Kretinsky, who may be showing concern, why he's sticking with him? There is no defence of it. So, and I know that ultimately David Sullivan and David Gold have the lion's share. So what they say goes. But seriously, there's going to be some serious disharmony going on.
Based on what you've heard today, from all the different sources and everything else, when do you realistically believe that he's going to get the bullet?
I think it'll be before Leeds, Gary. Do you mean?
You still think he's going to go before Wednesday?
I still think he's going to go. He's going to go before Wednesday. I do. I really, really do. You got to read between the lines. We know what the official line is because we've heard it today. I don't buy it. I don't buy the official line.
No.
I think they've got every reason now to get rid of him. David Moyes. It would be crazy to keep him purely based. Whoever hasn't seen the post-match press conference, if you can't stand listening to him, don't listen to him. Just watch him. Watch David Moyes. He looks broken. Okay,
yeah.
It's pointless keeping him now. The confidence is gone. It's been sucked out of the club, and it will turn nasty as well. If that's what they're waiting for, if they're waiting for the fans to actually fucking flip and turn nasty on him,
what's going to happen though? If it turns nasty over there, it's only going to go nasty in one direction, and that'll be against the board, right?
Yeah.
They're sort of reluctant, even when things were bad. You remember the Burnley game with running onto the pitch and everything else,
Yeah.
We weren't turning on the players then. We weren't turning necessarily on the manager. It was turning on the board. It will always revert to the board. And I think the board have got this situation in their hands and the ability. They're the only ones that can do something about this. So they are ultimately to blame. And I think, and it's one person in particular, it's David Sullivan, right?
Sofiane saying, "Lol, there's no way, Nick," and then he goes on to say, "You're being overly optimistic. There's no way in hell we sat before Wednesday." I'm sorry, mate. I have to believe it because there is no logic. I've racked my brains. There is no logical reason why they would retain him unless it's something, and even that's not a logical reason. If it's because of a clause in his contract, if he's because of a clause in his contract, that's not a good enough reason either.
I think he'd be gone already. I think, when we go and lose to Leeds and complete my ridiculous prediction of 0 points from 3 games, right? When we do that, then the embarrassment will be too much. They will have to get rid of him because that's 6 games on the spin. We've lost 7 out of 8. That is, how can anybody defend that? How can anybody with a straight face come out and say we're sticking by the manager after that, right? So I think they always intended to give him 3, irrespective of what he did. And this is the 3rd one coming up on Wednesday. So sit tight. I've been offered tickets for that, but I'm not driving 4 hours up to Leeds. No.
Mandy G says no one wants a job is the only reason. Do you know what? I don't buy that. Maybe our primary targets, maybe the people that that we've all been talking about. Me in particular, the likes of Poch. Maybe targets like that. Are now starting to become unrealistic. But there's still a lot of managers that would like a shot at the Premier League, that would look at that group that we've got and think, because if you're a manager, you're going to believe in your own ability. They'll look at that and think, yeah, I can get West Ham out of that. And we're in a cup. You can go and win a cup as well. I don't think that's the reason, Mandy. I think that we could go out and get another manager if they wanted to. They could.
Yeah.
But anyway, Gary, do you want to close up? Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and that caller talking about Warburton last night scared the bejesus out of me.
I know. I definitely don't want. I didn't want him anyway, but I definitely don't want him now.
No. Anyway, look, thank you all for joining. Thanks for all your comments. Another miserable post-match review, player ratings. Plenty of donkeys out there.
Less swearing though. Less swearing.
No,
In this
less
one.
swearing, a bit calmer today, but you know, it masks the underlying anger that we're feeling towards the situation. But anyway, look, if you haven't subscribed already, please help us in our drive for subs. Get subscribed to the channel. You just need a Gmail account or a Google account to do it. It's free, completely free. Helps us a lot. So until next time, look, to all of you, happy new year, a very happy new year. I hope 2023 brings everything you hope it does, and I hope we have a bit of an upturn in West Ham's fortunes as well. Can't get any worse, can it?
It can't. So, and if he is sacked before tonight, I'm going to post me. I'll put my postcode online so you can all come round here for a big party. Drinks are on me.
So yeah, we'll see you soon, everybody. Happy New Year, and come on, you irons.
Come on, you irons.